Okay. Hope you can hear me okay. Uh, my fault. It's a new laptop and I didn't know how to start it up again. So I apologize for being late, but I'm here. A lot of people watch this later, so I didn't want to let it go to pass. So I'm here. No emergency. Okay. Um, get my hair all brushed up here. Glad to glad that you're with us today. So hope you can hear me. If you can hear me, please say yes. I think you can. I do it on Thursday. I do it from a remote spot, so I don't have my normal setup. I do it from my laptop, and I don't use the laptop a whole lot. So I apologize for being late. Um, Here we go. Just a second here. So my name's Eric, Executive Director of Helps and founder of Helps. Helps is a national law firm that represents seniors and disabled persons who owe debt they can't afford to pay. Uh, our most important message to seniors is that your Social Security, your pension, your disability, your VA benefits are protected. It can't be taken from you. Okay. Oh, I'm glad you can hear. Good. Uh, and that means your Social Security can't be garnished or taken. If someone sues you and gets a judgment, they can't take it. There's a federal rule put in effect in 2012 that protects twice the amount of your federal benefits, like Social Security or a federal pension, deposited into your checking account or your bank account automatically by your bank from garnishment without you having to do anything. Okay. So that's important to know. Um, so I'll start out by doing this here, reading you this, which I thought was kind of sweet. Um, so yesterday, here's the notes from a file. In fact, I liked it so much, I forwarded this to all our intake people. And I talked to someone yesterday. My time was at 2:43. And I said I didn't do everything, but I sent her some emails about helps and what we do. And then told this person to uh, call us back. She'd been referred to us by someone else and she had never been on our website, didn't know anything about us. And so we have an email that we call a general email that has links to our YouTube page, our web page, and people can check helps out. And sometimes if people don't know anything about us, we'll send them that. And that's what I did with her. So this is the note. She called back at 3:27. That was about 45 minutes later. And she spoke with Monica at our office. And this is what Monica says. I love this. Uh, Potential client called back. Um, she read the information we sent her, and I added a bit more info on intake. I went over step by step on her loan auto payments to make sure she stops them. She was shelling out $2,000 a month and not leaving it enough to buy necessities. So she was paying debt. She had no idea she could stop it, and she was going without. And so we told her you could stop doing that. Um, it, Not leaving enough to buy necessities or to pay her rent. And after we told her this is what she said. She said, it's her birthday in 3 days. And this is like a birthday present. Now she knows she will not lose her housing and she can have a nice birthday lunch with her church pals. I let her know we all wish her a happy 85th birthday and hope she has the tastiest lunch ever. And, the paralegal that talked to her said, very sweet lady. So that's what Helps does. I was thinking about titling this today, Helps brings happy birthdays, because we do. When people find out about Helps and when they enroll and realize that their money is safe and they can use it for their food, their medicine, and their rent, and they don't have to worry about the creditors hounding them anymore, it is kind of like a big birthday present. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat feature. I should be able to answer them. And thanks for being forgiven. I won't make that mistake again. I called our tech guy and I said, what am I doing wrong? He says, you just got to hold the button down longer. Got to hold it down longer. And I did. Everything came to pass, but I was pretty frustrated. You know, a lot of us are the same age, right? I'm 74. So we grew up when there wasn't any computers. Now our kids are brilliant about this. And some of us that are our age are pretty good. I'm not a rocket scientist. So I get by, and I really appreciate technology. But I can tell you stories about the first, my first typewriter was a manual typewriter when I was an attorney, and then I got an IBM Selectric, and I thought I died, gone to heaven. Then we got mag cards, which were a miracle. And then the computers came to be, and it was a while. But now, what a life we live with cell phones and everything. It's just amazing. So that's why we're late. I don't have the headphones on today. You're listening through the laptop. Hope you can hear me okay. Scoot it up short if you can't, but closer. Okay, let's get back to what we're talking about here. So this lady Helps brought her a happy birthday present. She realized she didn't shell out $2,000 a month, and she could use the money for her food and her medicine and to be able to pay her rent. She was thrilled to death. This person contacts us from Oregon, and they say, I would like some help. I am not able to keep up with my credit card bills and keep my light, pay my rents, and still eat. Well, that's what we do, just like for this lady. You don't have to pay the credit card bills. If you're getting Social Security, pension, disability, especially any forms of retirement, then your income's protected, okay? Can't be taken. We said this on one of, someone looked at one of our videos, and this is a comment they made. It said, well, okay, but if you have equity in your home, they said, they can come after that. So none of what you're saying seems to matter. That would have been my retirement money, but they can come after that, not to mention the income tax you owe. They can come after you for that too. And I responded to this guy. I don't know if it was on our YouTube videos or maybe Senior Living or another one. I said, not true. I said, judgment creditors do not come after homes, even if there is equity over a state's homestead exemption. They don't do that. So if you're buying a home and you have equity over the amount that's protected under your state laws, if a creditor were to sue you, a credit card company, for example, they're not going to try to take your home. They don't do that for a lot of different reasons. And I talk about that all the time. And then I also said, seniors with modest or lower income can often qualify for currently not collectible status with the IRS and pay nothing. So, if you don't pay your debt, some people say, well, if you don't pay the debt, you're going to have to pay taxes on that. It's called a 1099-C. Well, not not really. I mean, there would be a very few exceptions where you would need to, and that would probably no one that's listening to me that ever talks to me. That would be someone who has really super high income. But uh, if you get a 1099-C, what that means is if you don't pay a credit card debt, a creditor can send the IRS a form called a 1099-C that says, hey, this person didn't pay this debt, therefore this should be taxable to them. Okay. Well, the thing is, uh, you know, they don't always send it in. And if they do, if you're a senior and your only income is Social Security or something else and you're not required to file taxes, IRS is never going to come follow you up with a 1099-C. They're not going to bother you about it because you don't file taxes. And even if you were required to file taxes, if your debts exceed your assets, you're classified as insolvent and there's no tax. But let's say for whatever reason you did owe taxes because of a debt you didn't pay. If your income is modest or lower, you can probably qualify for what's currently not collectible status and not have to pay the tax. And that's income about $2,500 or less if you're single, or $3,500 or less, and even more than that if you're a couple. Uh, we just don't have any problem with our clients that get 1099-Cs having to deal with the IRS on taxes. It just doesn't happen. Okay. So I don't want you to be worried about that, and you're not going to lose your home. Okay. Um, so this person called us from Missouri, and they'd stopped paying their bills for a while, and they said they had no real communications for collection efforts so far once she stopped paying the bills. But suddenly and surprisingly, she was served with two lawsuits from LNV Funding LLC. That's a debt collector, LVNV Funding, and there's a lot of different ones. That's one of the bigger ones. She thought, says here, she thought more communication would happen, but they went right into the lawsuit. She can't even remember being called or mailed things. Either way, she is unable to pay the debt. We discussed to her what we do. She sent us the information. We enrolled her, and she's very grateful that she found helps. We told her you don't need to respond to the lawsuit if you owe the money. Uh, they can't take your Social Security and your pension. As long as you keep the balance in your bank account less than twice the amount of Social Security benefits you get each month, no one, they won't even be able to touch your bank account. They probably won't even try touching your bank account. Okay. Um, this person called us from New Jersey, and I think I talked to him myself, and he had a past due gas bill. They hadn't shut him off yet, but it was like $750, and he was just paying like $50 towards it each month. And the gas used for heat, of course, now it's June, it's not cold. And I asked him, have you been threatened with shut off? He said no, but he says, I'm worried. Um, and I told him we normally don't send a cease and desist letter to a utility unless our client has moved and that's a utility from where they lived before. We don't want to send a cease and desist letter to a utility that you owe money to now because, you know, they can't, they may not be able to bother you, but they could shut off your electricity or could shut off your gas. Um, and what we tell people that have utility problems, we say, well, okay, if you enroll in HELPS and you don't have to pay your other creditors, hopefully that leaves you extra money with which to pay your utilities. Okay, that's one thing. And then I told him, most, if not all states, have various programs to help lower income seniors with a utility bill they can't afford. You can just search help for utility bills, the name of your state, maybe your county, and artificial intelligence or the computer will come up with lots of suggestions that on how to deal with the past due utility bill and how you can get help. The other thing that you could consider doing is you can call this number called 211. And that's usually, most states have that number. It's not like 911, it's 211. It's not an emergency, but it's for help that you might need, for essential health and human services help. It's free, it's confidential, it's 24/7, and it's a referral service. And it's similar to 911, but it's for non-emergency use. So you call 211 and you'll say, I have a problem with my utility bill. They're threatening to cut me off. What helps? And they're going to give you help or contact. Okay. So that's something to think about. Okay. If you have any comments or questions, you can put them in the chat feature. Brian says, one day I'm going to get the guts to give you the info for the attorney representing Discover. Yeah, well, you can give it to us anytime you want. You don't have to. You don't have to use your guts to give it to us. Just call us on the phone or text us a copy of the lawsuit, the first 2 pages, or fax it to us. You don't need to worry about it. Okay. And what we'll do is we'll send a letter to the attorney that sued you, let him know that your income is protected, that you can't afford to pay it. We understand they're going to get a judgment, tell not to touch your bank account. They can't anyway for the reasons I explained. So no, you're going to be fine. Okay. This person, there we go. What person asks, what constitutes a senior? It seems to go up higher and higher as time passes. Yeah, someone, made a comment on one of our videos. It's called helps. We talk about it. We help seniors, and but and the name of helps is help eliminate legal problems for seniors and disabled persons. So for a fact, we help anyone of any age. It's just based on your income. If you're getting Social Security, disability, VA benefits, retirement income, it doesn't matter how old you are. And the only reason we say seniors is because probably 95, 97% of our clients are seniors, but we do have younger people that we help. So it doesn't matter how old you are. It just depends on your source of income. And if you're married and you're older and your spouse is younger, no, we can help both of you. We'll go over it with you. This person writes in, I would like some help. I'm not able to keep up with my credit card bills and keep my lights and pay my rent and still eat. I'm 81 years old, hearing impaired woman trying to get help, but the numbers say I make too much. I don't know where to turn. Can you please give me some guidance or help? Absolutely. The best thing we did was coming up with a name for Helps Helps. That's what we do is we help people. We help people. We help seniors and disabled persons who are debt so that collectors have to leave them alone. And we also try to, our second mission is to educate seniors how they can maintain their financial independence. So we've probably already called this lady back. We told her that she doesn't need to worry about the credit card bills and she can use that money for her lights and her food, her rent. Yeah, we don't want you to worry. The magic thing about helps is when we represent you, it's not just one time, it's literally ongoing. We're your attorneys literally for the rest of your life. As long as you want us, we're your attorney. So if you get a call or a new collector 2-3 years down the road, you let us know. We send a cease and desist letter. out to that new collector. If you get sued 2, 3, 4, 5 years in the future, or, let us know. We're going to contact the attorney. If you have a question, no matter, if you incur a new debt, 5 years, 5 to 10 years in the future that you can't deal with, get a hold of us. We can add it to the list. Yeah. Our help is ongoing. It has to be, because creditors turn the debts over to a new debt collector, and you might get a new notice a year or 2 years down the road. So we represent ongoing. We don't want you to sit home and worry. Okay. My mom has worked hard for her whole life, cared for her kids alone, took in anyone that needed help. At 87, she's still working, mainly just to keep up with things like food and these credit cards. Just found out that her finances are a mess. She was too proud to say anything to us and now is drowning. Uh, does not make much money with work, and Social Security is not enough to pay her low cost rent, utilities, supplemental health care, and food, let alone the credit card debt she has now. She has 4 credit cards and all total about $20,000. Since 2020, she's been paying about 30% interest on all the cards. Oh my gosh. Okay. There we go. Behind on one card a month, which is now 900 minimum payment. She makes about $2,000 a month from everything. She's not filed taxes since 2020, so for now, bankruptcy is not an option. She says she doesn't need to file bankruptcy ever. Okay. Um, are there any good tips to use when contacting these companies? I would like some help. Um, okay. So it's not unusual for us to talk to a child who's trying to help a parent. And I love that when that happens. So we're going to call them back, and we're going to say, we can help your mom. Maybe we can do a joint call with you and your mom on the phone. And maybe beforehand, you can show mom a video about helps and what we do. And we're going to explain to mom that she doesn't need to pay this debt. She doesn't need to worry about it. She's been paying it for long enough. They've made enough money off her. She doesn't need to worry about this. And then, it'd change her whole life. She's, how old is she? 87, still working just to keep up with the credit card debts. I mean, you can do it if you want, but you don't have to. Lawmakers protected your income for a reason. They realized that seniors needed their income to pay for their food and their medicines, and they wouldn't always be able to work. Okay. Okay. I'll go on. This guy about the mom, he continues on. He says, I feel so bad. We could pay them off, but we've already bought her a car, hearing aids, dentures, etc. She also wants to pay them, but the interest on 2 cards in the last year is almost $4,000. On my estimation, she has already paid for the goods she bought on the cards tenfold. Also, we started doing her taxes this year because she gets paid 1099-Cs. She owes like 2,000 just for last year because she went above income threshold for non-tax Social Security, plus another recent hospital stay, um, and on and on. She owes a few grand for that. I told her not to pay some of the other medical stuff in the past, but she's paid those some months instead of her credit cards. It's so hard. She did everything for everyone else. She deserves not to be stressed over this. Absolutely. She does not qualify for a loan to consolidate things, at least online. And I'm not going to co-sign because, well, she's 87 and the debt would become mine when she dies. Any advice? 2 cards that make up most of the debt are the same credit card company. I'm thinking to call them this week and see about consolidating them, coming up with a plan. Any advice would be helpful. Yeah, we'll be able to help you. We probably already called this guy back, and talk to him and explain that his mother can stop paying the debt, and we'll do a joint call with mom and solve their problems. But if you're having these issues, if you have debt you can't afford to pay, there is an answer. And you can call helps 855-435-7787 and talk to us, and we'll go over your situation. Um, we enroll people over the phone. It just takes a few minutes. We don't turn anyone away that needs our help. Those that pay a very minimal amount. But you're going to be okay. But we need you to call us. And I promise you, you'll be glad that you did. You don't need to be embarrassed. We don't ask any embarrassing questions. You got to realize, helps. We're not here to pay the debt. You don't have to pay the debt. We're not a debt management company or a debt settlement company. No, what we do is represent you as your attorney so that the collectors have to leave you alone. You don't have to pay the debt. You're not going to get harassed by debt collectors. And we're here to answer your questions. Okay? And we don't want you to worry, is the number one thing. And if you do worry, we want you to call us. So this person contacted us from Florida. He says, I have an appointment coming up for an attorney that has been after me for like 5 years. I only have Social Security disability and a small pension. Um, he continues to come after me, so I was trying to vacate the judgment as he never gave the receipts for what he says I owe. He's already got a judgment. It's be next to impossible to vacate the judgment. I'll go on. So he sent the judge an 11-page that talked about the money owed. This has caused me so much anxiety and still in the midst of it. Do you all take this kind of case? Thanks so much. I'm a senior 72 and retired with no assets. The answer is pretty easy. We're going to tell you, just forget about it. You don't need to meet with him. You don't need to try to work the debt out or argue that you don't owe the debt because he can't do anything to collect from you. Okay? Can't take anything from you. Your Social Security is protected, so is your pension. And if you get legal papers from an attorney like that, call us. We'll provide you legal information on how to deal with it, but you're not going to have to deal with it because your income's protected. So this person writes us, they say, I do need your help. I get so many phone calls and I can't deal with it anymore. My bank has been hacked 2 times in the past 2 weeks. Please help me. I don't know what they mean by that, but we'll call them back and be able to help them. That's what we do. Don't want you to worry. So this person contacts us from Georgia, and they're younger. They're disabled. They're in their 50s. Okay, so you might say they're not a senior, but they're disabled. They're getting disability, which is protected income. So there's someone that can help. So he says, I've had major medical expenses this past year after complications due to many surgeries. I had to stop paying my credit cards in order to be able to afford my medicine, and other necessities. I'm being sued by Citibank and other creditors. I own my home and do not want to lien against it. What can I do to protect myself and my wife? Well, okay. So what are we going to tell this guy? First thing I'm going to tell him, if you're only getting Social Security, or if you're only getting disability income, if it's private disability or whatever it is, it's protected. So you're either protected under federal or state laws. It can't be taken from you, so you can choose not to pay the credit card debt. Now you've been sued. You don't have the ability to pay the debt back. You don't need to go to court. Yeah, they're going to get a judgment, and the judgment may become a lien on the home. However, he's going to tell me that he owns the home with his wife, so they own it together as either by tenants by the entirety or as joint tenants. In other words, they own it in such a way that if one of them passes away, the home will go to the other. So um, a judgment could become a lien on that home. Okay, I'm assuming he owns the home free and clear based on what he said here. Um, they can't take the home, but if he passes away before his wife, the home will automatically go to the wife, and the judgment lien disappears. And if he's telling me, which he normally would, he'd say, "Well, I intend to stay in the home forever," and you don't need to worry about it. They can't take your home. Okay. Now, can you prevent a lien being put on it? Not if they get a judgment. But, it depends too on the state where you live. Sometimes a lien is meaningless. For example, in Texas, you have an unlimited homestead exemption and you can get a judgment lien removed. In California, if you filed a homestead prior to a judgment, which most people have done, then a judgment doesn't attach to the home. You can still sell it and get all the money out of it. Same thing as in Florida and many other states. But no, you're not going to lose the home. You don't need to worry about that. So this person contacts us about 4 years ago. I had a bunch of credit card debt and enrolled with a debt management company. I've been making monthly payments for the last 3 years. Then 2 years ago, I was forced to retire because of health issues. I'm now getting Social Security disability. And he says, I have maybe 20 payments left and it's getting hard to make the payment. Then I saw your video and he asked, can I just drop out of this? He's getting Social Security disability. Absolutely. Yeah. If you're enrolled with debt management and when you enrolled with them, you were on Social Security or a pension or disability or VA benefit or whatever, and they never told you that your income was protected and you didn't need to pay the debt, you weren't given complete information. And with rare exceptions, debt management companies don't tell people that. And you've heard me talk about that. Why? Why don't they tell you that? If they told you that, you wouldn't enroll with them and they wouldn't make money off you. So, yeah, you can, if you're wrapped up with debt management, call us, we'll go over it with you. You don't need to pay it anymore. If the creditor were to sue you, they can't collect from you. You're going to be fine. You don't need to worry. So let me check. I haven't checked. Let me see if there's some questions here I need to deal with. Joe Nobody says, to sell the house or when a senior passes, cannot the debt collector get the money from either sell the house or from the child that inherits? It depends on how you own the home. Okay. Um, if you own the home with the other person with survivorship rights and their name was on the title with you uh, as a joint owner um, before there was a judgment, then yeah, when you pass away, the property goes to that joint owner. So if you add your child's name on the home with you as a joint owner, then when you pass away, the home goes to the child, and the judgment lien drops off. It's only against you, and if you're dead, it's no longer there. But if you have a will and there's a judgment against you, then yeah, the child could be required to if they sell, it could be a lien on the home. So if the child goes to sell the home, they'd have to deal with the debt. We talk about that. We can give you more information on that. If maybe you misrepresented income just a bit, then a debtor's exam would scare you. No, you're not going to have a debtor's exam. Um, okay, Joe asked another question before that. If a creditor gets a judgment, can they not get a lien on a homeowner's house? So even if a senior's income is protected and they can't lose their house, what if at some point the senior uh, desires to sell the house? Um, yeah, there's a possibility you'd have to deal with it at that time. It depends on the state where you live, again, and what the exemption laws are. And we're glad to go over that with you. Um, there we go. Something about a car here. Currently paying on a car, won't be paid off for another 5 years. Can they touch that? No. I'm 74. Can't believe I'm that old. I've been attorney for what, 46 years now. Did between 30 and 40,000 bankruptcies. Helps for the last 12 years. Judgment creditors don't come after people's cars. Okay. They just don't do it for a lot of different reasons. Um, I mean, you could envision a scenario where a creditor could do it, but they don't do it because it costs them too much money. They have to now, obviously, if you don't pay a car loan and the lender, they can repossess the car, but a judgment creditor just isn't going to do that. They're not going to take your car. Okay. Cindy asked, can a mortgage company garnish Social Security? Only income, had to walk away, repairs. I couldn't afford to live in Ohio. Husband and I only on. No, no one. Your Social Security is protected by the only one that could touch your Social Security would be the IRS. Could offset 15% of your Social Security, but they give you notice, 60-day notice before you do that, and give you time to apply for what's called currently not collectible status. So then the only other reason is if you owe past due child support, that could be a problem. And the Trump administration just said yesterday that they're not going to take offset 15% of Social Security for people that are getting um, Social Security for a past due student loan. So really, the only way your Social Security is at risk from any creditor would be child support. That's so very rare, and taxes, and that a state can't touch your Social Security. So no, I don't care who it is, they can't touch it. Does a person on Social Security still have to file state taxes each year? Well, you know, I don't think so. I mean, you don't have to file federal taxes, and if you're only getting Social Security, if you didn't file a state tax return, let's say you owed some money to the state for whatever reason, a state can't touch your Social Security or your pension. It's protected just like a debt for a credit card is protected. So if you owe money to a state tax collector, you don't have to pay it. If they were to garnish your bank account, twice the amount of your federal benefit, like Social Security, deposit in your bank account, that sum is protected in your bank, no matter if there's other monies in there, even from a state tax collector. Yeah, we do need more senior housing. Okay. Um, and it's got to be a solution for the housing issue for our seniors. I don't think seniors require a big palace or a lot of room. They just need some basic place to live that's affordable. We do have Section 8, which is wonderful, where you pay about a third of your income. We do have an email. A lot of times I'll tell seniors, I'll talk about Section 8 and I'll tell them to apply for it, even if they don't want it right now. Get on the waiting list because maybe 2 or 3 years from now, when they call you and offer it to you, you'll be glad you applied for it 2 or 3 years ago. Okay. And then also you could get moved up on the list. We have an email on how to get moved up on the list. And also you can apply for Section 8 anywhere in the country. You don't have to apply for just where you live. Some parts of the country, it's really hard to get on it. Some parts of the country are more desirable to live than other places. Um, so yeah. So this person contacted us from Florida. They have they owe about 20,000 on a home that's worth almost $200,000, and their income is they get 1,500 in Social Security, but the house payment is 750. So you take 1,500 minus 750, that's leaving them 750 to live on. And there's some judgment liens, and they talked about getting a home equity line of credit. They couldn't get it because of the judgment liens. So what are they going to do? Um, well, a couple things. Uh, I mean, theoretically, there's a way to get a reverse mortgage and have those judgment liens removed. Now, the only problem with that is going to require that there be an offset for property taxes. Uh, but given what the person's age and what they owe on the home, they'll probably qualify for a reverse mortgage. Now, I don't sell reverse mortgages, but I know a lot about it, and I can direct people on where to go to get one. So a reverse mortgage for this person would solve all the problems. I mean, imagine that you didn't have that judgment and you had 1,500 income and you had 750 house payment and you had all that equity in your home. Reverse mortgage, you no longer have to make 750 house payment. Now you'd be living off of $1,500. Uh, Even if you wasn't able to access any extra money out of the reverse mortgage, it'd change your whole life. Um, when you get a reverse mortgage, you still own the home. You can still sell it, still pass it on to your family. There's a lot of misinformation about reverse mortgages. For some people, they're really an answer to prayer. Okay, this couple calls us from Illinois. They're older. She says, we're older. My husband has been in and out of nursing homes for the last several years. So I'm by myself. I had to stop paying the credit card bills. I hired a law firm to pay them for me. Some law firms act as debt management companies. I've been in the program for 2 years and I recently had to cancel because I couldn't pay it anymore. and I'm getting contacted by credit cards every day. I just can't pay them. They take most of my husband's money in the nursing home, and I don't have much left now to pay them. I was just wondering, since there is more money to be paid to a nursing home, how do I pay them? How do I pay the credit cards? Well, you don't need to pay the credit cards. And your husband, if he needs to, can get on Medicaid, and that will pay for the nursing home. Any help you can give us would be appreciated. And we'll talk to him and tell him what to do, how to help him. So if you're in that situation with debt you can't afford to pay, and you haven't got the answer here, listen to YouTube Live. You can listen to our other YouTube Live. Call us on the phone. That's what we're here for. We talk to anyone and go over your situation and answer your questions. Yeah, people are talking about Section 8 here on the chat, and thank goodness for it. The government saves any money, then they need to put more money in Section 8. People need a place to live. Waiting for 2 or 3 years to get on Section 8 is just too long. Thank goodness we have it. Okay, so I apologize for being late today. My fault. I already told you why. But thankfully, a lot of people they look at this later. So, but those of you who've hung in with me from the beginning, I appreciate it. And we do YouTube Live every Monday through Thursday, 10 o'clock Pacific, 11 Mountain, 12 Central, and 1 Eastern time. Join us next week, Monday, and I will talk to you later, and have a great day. And always call us, press the like button, subscribe to our channel, 855-435-7787. And I'll say goodbye to you from New Orleans today. See you later.